Hey guys, Matthew here once again with the follow-up video for the Stormburst Elementalist using a staff, a Shaper staff that is, and by god, Stormburst actually does way more damage than I ever would have thought it could, at least at this stage of the game. I have cleared all the way up to, well, everything, Uber Elder inclusive, and there will be a video of this in just a little bit by the end of this video, but wanted to show you a few more clips of the clear speed, of the few bits of other single target damage, but yep, long story short, Stormburst actually does some pretty good damage now that it's got more of a front-loaded projectile portion, and then the explosion portion does quite a lot as well. So you can see that the clear speed is pretty different to a lot of other skills. You do stand still quite a bit and shoot out balls that explode and then kind of cascade in a certain radius. And truth be told, that can be pretty dangerous in plenty of scenarios. I did hit level 93, but a couple of the levels 91, maybe a bit of 92, was somewhat of a struggle in the late maps, the red tier maps, and really tough rolled red tiers, especially with incursions and all those little chaos shooting dudes. With the way I built this character, pretty low on defenses just so I could get as much damage as I could out of it to specifically see if Stormburst was capable of damage. The way I've built it in the end does not really lend to a very good playstyle for the endgame grinding of maps, because I just don't have that much life or recovery from a lot of the big damage hits out there. So most of these clips, I am completely destroying content, and most of the time I am completely destroying content, but you will die to a few little bits and pieces if you build just like this. But the actual endgame content itself, like this Elder, as well as Shapers, as well as all the Guardians, pretty much all of those are going to be deathless most of the time, because that's not the type of stuff that actually gets you. It's the unexpected little monsters that have super big buffs and actual, you know, bad mob types, as well as the map type and the map mods just end up getting you if you don't have the right defenses for it. That said, you can see the single target is pretty goddamn huge in my current setup. Level 20 gem at this point with the 6-link staff that I crafted. The only real different and slightly expensive piece of gear I'm currently using is a Watcher's Eye that I found from one of my Red Elder kills, which does 15% Wrath penetration to lightning, and it does add a bit of damage, you know, about 15% maybe, probably more like 10% because it does take away another jewel socket, and overall the damage is way higher than I ever thought a Stormburst would hit, and it does lend to a pretty nice playstyle against the bosses themselves. So it's pretty safe. You can control your character fairly effectively with the way you fire your Stormburst, fire it up, and then move when it starts to explode. And overall, it is pretty nice for bossing. You can do some cast while channeling action as well. You can even play Ball Lightning altogether with this sort of character if you're just not enjoying Stormburst. And I think you will have some pretty decent success there too. However, the single target probably won't be quite as high, though I didn't really try Ball Lightning in the end for single target, specifically because I just couldn't get the colors to match up for both Stormburst and Ball Lightning on my staff. So that's the meaty clips for now. I will go over what the character looks like now with the few little changes I've made, and then give you the Uber Elder clip, which went pretty damn smooth, but a few little hiccups on the attempts that I made. And it is very deathless viable. It's just up to the individual, let's just say. So the character here is now level 93, called Burstin Makes Me Feel Good, and it is an Elementalist. It's come under just a few little revisions and upgrades since the last video, and I'll go over those right now. So we do still have a staff that has the power charge on crit. That's the main focus point of the build and the character, though you can do a cast while channeling staff or the combo of both, and I encourage you to play around with Stormburst and cast while channeling with Ball Lightning, with Arc, and see what you like best, because the cast while channeling setups might be better overall, but I wanted to make pure Stormburst in this scenario, and that's what I have done. So it is a Stormburst, currently level 20. The links for single target are Hypothermia, Slow Approach, Controlled Destruction, Added Lightning, and GMP, and for mapping you use Fast Approach so that you actually kill things a lot quicker and more defensively that way. As far as big changes since the last video, I don't think there are any. Basically, I did just still roll a fairly crappy Shaper chest here for spell crit and life, and ultimately, after playing around with the Impulsor a bit, I'd say the Impulsor is worth it if you really don't care about being flavor of the month or cheesing the content or whatever. Impulsor does seem worth it for the explosions, for the safety that it gives, and it'll probably give just a little bit more damage thanks to the shock effect instead of this thing. For your actual Stormburst anyway. But it might get a nerf in the next patch, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But it should be worth it to run an Impulsor. If you can't get one, then this is totally fine, and that's what I did all the content with. I only actually put on Impulsor for a couple of levels just to play around with, so I didn't actually use it in this character at all, but you certainly can and probably should if you want to min-max this type of character. Now, aside from that, there isn't too much that I changed. I did chuck in a Wrath, so now I'm running Wrath, Herald of Ice, and Herald of Thunder. So that's up in my helm, and it needs a level 3 Enlighten so that you have enough mana unreserved to be able to actually pull it off. If you can't get an Enlighten at that point, you will probably have to respec into some nodes over here to be able to pull this off, and that will take, nodes away from something like the Staff Crit perhaps, or really not too sure. It's a very greedy tree that you don't want to drop anything of, so that's going to be up to you guys, but that's what the reservation looks like. And I did run Clarity for a while without Wrath up until I finally made this swap, but I did finally make this swap, and my mana is then being sustained through Orb of Storms, which gives me Arcane Surge because it's attached to Arcane Surge over here, but it now also has Warlord's Mark with Curse on Hit and Ice Bite. So my Orb of Storms ends up being pure utility in this scenario, giving us Frenzy charges from Ice Bite as well as cold damage, so you can chill. It then gives Arcane Surge every time you press it, and Warlord's Mark with Curse on Hit, which is your Leech and Mana Leech, and that's how we sustain mana. So the playstyle for me does end up being just port around and drop an Orb of Storms before every single pack pretty much. And you do really get used to it, and with enough cast speed it doesn't feel bad at all. And that said, Orb of Storms, even under pure utility, with these gem links, actually still kills things and freezes packs plenty, so it does still help you in your clear speed, as well as give you the utility. At least if you're an Elementalist with the right nodes, it does feel pretty good to still use Orb of Storms. Though if you can fix it up with some Mind Over Matter action instead, go a much more defensive setup, get some other different sorts of things happening, I think you can also use a good 5 or 6 link for pure damage on Orb of Storms, but that's going to be up to you guys. This is just a template for how Stormburst can work and can do lots of damage, and like I said, about 5200 life or 5k life, it's going to be kind of a struggle to get to this level. With that sort of defense, if you're going to do some dangerous maps in Flashback. Getting to 93, it was quick, but I did die plenty of times to shitty maps and shitty mob types, and it's going to be kind of tough with this type of defense, unless you play it quite a bit slower, because the damage is definitely there. But if you're going to try and go fast with Stormburst with this type of setup, it's going to get dangerous and a bit rough if you don't build into more defense. I was okay with this type of setup and defense because I knew that would be good and good enough for the end game, the bosses and all that, which is all I was really worried about, and it was, and that's why I kept it. If I wanted to level to 95 or to 93 again, I'd probably build a bit more defensively, and you'd probably have to reshape the passive tree to then go into Mind Over Matter. You probably wouldn't run too much in the way of mana reservation, but it's just not how I wanted to build the character, and that's where we are here now. So then lastly, we do have the path of building. Currently my Stormburst Explosion will say it does 284,000 DPS, which is quite a significant amount. Since the last video, I think I've gone up by at least double or so. That is with the fine tuning of some gem levels. Still not even anything too extreme. These don't have qualities, and that's not a level 21, which you could easily achieve. That is with, however, a Vile Righteous Fire ticked, which rarely happens, so you probably untick that and you're sitting at 200k. That's probably the baseline that I would use to compare with. You do have your Wrath, your Herald, and also that is with the Watcher's Eye that does 15% Lightning Pen, which I found off of an Elder. And normally I wouldn't use this type of stuff in builds, but I mean, I self-found it, and why the hell not at the end of the league like this. So this is the character's gear in full that you can copy. You really don't need a Watcher's Eye like this, but it's pretty nice. And then bear in mind that this damage isn't fully indicative of the damage you're going to do, because we don't tick is the enemy shocked, since you know, we don't really know exactly how much we're shocking them for and how much damage it's going to apply, but you do shock as the Elementalist with at least 20% increased damage, and then with all the shock effect that we get from over here and here, you do end up actually, you know, doing even more shock than just the 20% base, and it's a lot more damage than this, and that is per ball as well, and we shoot out like, you know, 7 or even more balls. Plenty at the time, so the tooltip here doesn't really mean anything, and bear in mind that it's pretty tough to actually gauge a Stormburst damage, but you can see throughout the video and throughout this next Uber Elder kill that I'm about to show you that it's pretty ridiculous. And so lastly, before we go, we'll show you the micro setup in case you're interested for some reason. Celestial body armor, celestial hood, celestial shit, sin and innocence, wings, and then you just got yourself a celestial staff skin, which does look really neat, and then it combos nicely with a lot of different weapon effects, and I just chose Manticore because it kind of goldifies the whole thing. Without that though, if you're interested, it looks kind of like that. Doesn't even really need a weapon skin, but the Manticore I thought worked pretty nicely, so I left it on there. So yeah, that's the character. That's been Stormburst. It's been quite a lot of fun. I actually quite loved it. As a starter character, it would be pretty rough, I think, because building up your defense while building up your offense is going to be tough, and Stormburst won't really feel good until it has all of the right cast speed, crit, damage, and defense all going at once, so I'm not sure I could recommend it as a first character, unless maybe you're an Inquisitor. I feel like that would be easier to do. I don't know though, it's really going to be up to you guys if you want to go through that struggle. This has been Stormburst though, hope you enjoyed it. It's been quite a lot of fun from my end, and it is totally viable. Here's the Uber Elder kill, so thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. I'm pretty sure I could reliably clear it, like every time, but Deathless is a big thing. It's pretty fucking hard when you can't get hit. Chieftain, for example, he can get hit a lot, and that's why I can do a lot of Deathless there, because I do fuck it up plenty, and it doesn't matter when I do.
Putrefy, rot, spoil,
Power charge. And the fact that he moved right then at the end there is pretty shit. This is poorly timed now, I think. Because now I do have to dodge these balls and then make it back in. Whoa, Jesus, he came out of that and almost one-tapped me. Did he get a ground off? He did. God damn it. No. Wait, what? You can't do that halfway through. If he does a tentacle attack, I'm dead, huh? Because I don't have a Quicksilver anymore. And he's gonna do one. There it is. Did I really catch that last ball on the fucking teleport? I thought it totally went past, and I was just gonna go back into the portals and start attacking and get my fucking... What happened? That last ball that was flying past managed to clip me as I ported into it. Or rather, I managed to clip it, I should say. I reckon. That's probably more fair. And that's an unwinnable situation. That, unfortunately, if they combo you with that, you're just dead. Unless you have Combs Roots. If you have Combs Roots, you can fucking do it. But when Elder ports slows you, and Shaper goes for the slam, you can't get out of it fast enough. Because I was already on the move from that slam. But there's no way you can move out of it in time. So Combs Roots are fucking cheese mode there. In that they prevent one unpreventable death. I don't know. It's very obviously deathlessable, but fucking hell. Can't believe I did that. We get it while it's hot. Penetrate hatred. Leech with vitality. And damage taken with clarity. The penetration's good. I think that makes it something. The vitality leech ain't bad. You can do things with this one. 75x. I believe you.